Welcome to the Support Raising Podcast. The aim of this podcast series is about trailblazers. Trailblazers are people who set a new path moving forward so that others can follow. It's our aim and others to follow biblical fundraising paths. Today, we have with us Rebecca McCaigue and Claire Niclasen, and they both have been doing support raising, consulting, and coaching in Europe with a network there for over a decade. And they have a wealth of knowledge, some fun stories, and a real passion to help others move forward in the area of coaching. So thanks so much for joining us today on the Support Raising Podcast. And I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Mark Wilson, and I am the director of Via Generosity. And our aim and passion is to help people be spiritually healthy, vision-driven, and fully funded globally. And so we're really, really thankful for your time and effort today. Thanks, ladies. Yeah, share with us. You are both here today together, but I hear sometimes that's not always the case, that you're in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, that's right, Mark. So Rebecca and I have both done the same leadership coaching course, but in different cohorts. And there's a lot of things that we both enjoy doing, but not necessarily at the same time. So there's a spa in Hungary that we've both been to and enjoyed. We've both enjoyed zip lining down Niagara Falls, not at the same time. And we're just going to keep adding to that list as we're able.
Well, thank you again so much for being here today. And today we want to talk a little bit about how your passion has driven you to study and research and get equipped to build a coaching model that helps people who are raising personal support get to their funding goals. So I'd love for you guys to kind of start at the beginning. Tell us what circumstances led you to explore coaching, in personal support raising. Like, how did that come as something you were interested in?
I think for me, I personally got a coach myself, and suddenly everything skyrocketed. And I'm like, what is this magic? And I think that really got me inspired and to think like, wow, what are these principles? Like, how does it work? Why is it so successful? And unlocking so many things that are usually a little bit under the surface. And that got me really, really excited into coaching and looking more deeper into it. And I'm really happy that we continued this path and that I got Claire to come alongside me. How would you say it, Claire?
Yeah, I think for me, I started doing support raising trainings, and as those developed, I think there was a little bit of a gap between sort of the training and then in the practice of what people then go on to do. And I think coaching really bridges that gap. And I also experienced some good coaching myself, and I saw the difference that it made. And so that became an increasing passion of mine. And so, learning how to explore how coaching, because we both did a leadership coaching course, how we can take those skills and bring it into the support raising world has been really interesting.
Yeah, that's great. And I love it when personal experience often develops a passion or an awareness of how it might impact those around you. So thanks for not only receiving that investment from somebody, but having the desire to move forward. Now, a few years ago, we did some research on coaching in the support raising world. And one of the things we found is that as many different coaches as there were that many different definitions. So I'd love for you guys to kind of set us, like, what would you define coaching as, especially in the support raising MPD space?
Yeah. So a definition that we've come up with, that it's not completely finalized, but we've put partnering with a client who is currently working on their MPD, raising funds for ministry, and helping them increase their self-awareness, discover a biblical perspective, and then empower them to complete their next steps in order for them to reach their goals.
Sure. Anything? That's great. Thanks, Claire. Anything you would want to add to that, Rebecca?
No, that's actually like what Claire and I worked on the course. We're thinking, so we have coaching, we have leadership coaching. What would be the definition for MPD coaching? That's also why Claire said it's still a process, because I feel like as we develop, it still develops with us. But this is so far the best we've come up with to kind of put it into words.
Yeah, and I think
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think the key words are partnering with a client. We're not just kind of dictating to a client what they should be doing. It's a very much a partnership, and then the self-awareness, the biblical perspective, and the action points are the things that kind of gel that together.
Yeah, I think it's a really clear and excellent definition. And how would you, like, for those listening who sometimes see coaching in maybe a more of an accountability of activity, like, what would you want them to see about the significance of what you defined maybe versus simply reporting in the numbers and the activities?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, when I started MPD coaching without having the training, it was more like, I mean, I'm German. It probably felt more like an interrogation to people to just sit there and check in what they were doing and keep them accountable. And I think one of the biggest takeaways that Claire and I had through all the programs we did and developed was like, coach the person, not the problem. And that also shows that the client is resourceful. So I don't have an agenda as the coach. The client brings their agenda, and I'm drawing out from them and give them the room to explore whatever it is that's there. I think that is the biggest difference from, at least from my development as a coach. And many times you feel, depending what your definition is from coaching, you could come across like the one who's just checking in and is not really with the client, but more like an interrogator in the worst case.
Sure. I mean, it does change the whole spirit of the conversation. Like, I was just thinking about what it would feel like when you're just reporting in numbers, as opposed to when you're bringing some problems and solution, or like you need solutions. Like, it changes the way you engage with the coach, I think, even emotionally.
Yes, yeah, and I think if it's just an accountability partner, like I think it does have a place, like it does have a role, but it doesn't really equip the client to solve future problems. Whereas I think if you're really coaching the person, you're equipping and enabling and empowering them to solve the problems in the future, or get around obstacles that may be in their way. So I think it's much more transformative for the client.
I hope you guys heard what Claire just said, because that's gold. You're equipping them to solve future problems. Like, you are making them have the ability to problem solve and to scale out what they're learning for a lifetime. And that's really a significant point there. Now that we're kind of on some of the benefits of coaching, like, versus accountability, what would you say some of the other benefits are of coaching? Like, you talked about, you're helping them for a lifetime. Like, what other things would maybe the audience might not know that coaching could provide for people who are raising support?
I mean, raising support brings up lots of issues that many people don't have to deal with because they don't find themselves in the circumstances. So I feel coaching sheds lights on these areas and is a great opportunity to explore them and to actually go out better than you came in before, if you're open for change. And also I love, like you mentioned before, that there's a different emotion if you want to have a coach that's just an accountability person, or if you're someone who explores with you what you do. Like, for instance, one coach would say like, hey, how many calls did you make? That is more like an accountability. But if you have someone who struggles making calls, you can just say, what happens when you put the phone in your hand, and just explore what's actually happening. And then more and more surfaces. And I think these are the positive byproducts that happen in good coaching that are not only applying to MPD, but also for many areas of your life.
Great. That was stellar. I mean, even as you were saying, what's it like when you pick up the phone? Like, I'm imagining like what it's like for me to pick up the phone anyway, but that was really, meaningful. Like, great. Thank you. Anything you want to add to that, Claire?
Yeah, I think coaching brings clarity for the client to actually understand what is it that's getting in my way, or what is it. And sometimes there can be sort of a tension between conflicting, sort of thoughts or feelings. Like I know I want to build my partner team. I want to do my MPD, but at the same time, I feel embarrassed whenever I talk about my ministry. Or at the same time, I'm not 100% convinced I can raise support for this. And you've just got these competing things. So coaching can really bring clarity, and once you've got that clarity or identified what someone is thinking, what someone's feeling, you can challenge them and think, is that actually true? Who says? And then you can have a different conversation, and you can, if assumptions are challenged, then it enables the person to move on, so they're not an obstacle for them anyway. So I think coaching can be a real catalyst as well, and I think coaching just really helps people often to think, actually, I'm not the only one who feels this way. I'm not the only one who struggles with this. And coaching is by no means fixing people in any way. It's much more of a sort of development, and just bringing out the best and creating that safe space to really explore what's going on.
Yeah, thank you. No, you had kind of hinted at, I'm going to use the word misconceptions, but like coaching is not fixing people. Are there other definitions or boundaries that you might say what coaching is not? Because we kind of have talked about what coaching is and some of the benefits. What would you say some things that coaching is not, or maybe misconceptions that people misunderstand?
I'd say coaching is not one-to-one training.
Okay.
And it's not telling the client what to do. Those are my two biggest ones.
Those are very helpful, very, very helpful and clear.
Yes, because there's gray zones between mentorship and coaching. And as a coach, is really like our, premises is, what the English word, our basic sentence, what we got, assumption. Our assumption as coach is the client is resourceful. And if I draw from the client, I actually help them coming up with their solution. In the moment I think I'm telling them what to do as a trainer, or I will mentor them, I limit them to my knowledge. And so many times I've learned so much from clients because they come up with ideas. It's like, oh, wow, I never thought about this. And that's the beauty also about coaching, or big misconception is just telling them what to do.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for clarifying. And, I think coaching is a really popular word right now, and just about every industry is using the word at some level and really has a different meaning behind what they mean when they're coaching. And so I think it's really helpful for you guys to clarify some of those things. What are some areas in which you help people personally that, maybe even some categories where people are consistently stuck? And you mentioned some assumptions in one of our previous questions. That's something you help them challenge their assumptions that they can't raise their support, or they're assuming they're just raising money. But I would love to hear from you how very tangibly you help people work through some of these consistent challenges you see.
Yeah, so for one client was that her assumption was that people will think it's just about money, or no one wants to really give money to it. And then we also figured out that actually her conviction was it's all about money. And in the moment that shifted to I'm not raising my support, I'm raising my support team, suddenly an excitement came in. And that is when people then project this assumption that it is something exciting where people can say yes or no to, but it's the opportunity to join the team. Not everyone is necessarily part of the team, but some people are. And that's when you get this beautiful momentum in. And it's not like, oh, I have to, but like, wow, I'm doing it. I'm doing MPD, or I get to do MPD, which is a completely shift.
And so often, I love that story because we experience the fruit of a bad assumption, but we're not aware. We think we're thinking the right way about it, but we're so unaware that we're making a bad assumption and it's impacting the way we do things. So I really like that thought process. Claire, what were some thoughts that you have just kind of in some common experiences and categories for coaching that you help people in?
Yeah, so really good question, Mark. I think one thing that stands out to me is identity. It comes out a lot, whether it's someone's identity in Christ, sometimes it's just feeling undeserving of support. That we're undeserving of salvation as well, but sometimes it feels easier to accept that than to accept support from a friend who who lives a few streets away. And sometimes it's someone can be sure they feel called to their ministry, but they feel like no one else is going to support them. And so sometimes it's just unpacking things, and it's like, well, if God's put this on your heart, can't he put it on so other people's hearts as well, who will get behind you and pray for you and encourage you and support you financially in your ministry. So I think identity is a big one, and I've seen it sort of both ways. I've seen other people saying, what we're doing is great. Why don't people want to support me? And just helping them sort of unpack. Well, actually, sort of by doing this, it gives your friends, family, people an opportunity to make their own decision whether they want to support you or not. So yeah, I think identity is key.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to move without understanding who you are, where you begin and where you end, and just that definition makes it you move with such hesitancy without that solid foundation of belief. But that's really significant. And I've struck to support raising coaching is so spiritual. Like, is there anything that you would want to say, like when I say that to you, like just about the spiritual component of support raising coaching?
Oh, absolutely. Because raising support is a spiritual activity itself, and so is coaching. And so sometimes you end up talking about something you had no idea, but I always pray before coaching anyone that the Holy Spirit would guide the conversation. And sometimes when the client has a moment of clarity, or sometimes you just see their posture change, their energy shifts, and sometimes you just can describe those as holy moments, where you just see God at work in through the coaching process. And so, I think it's absolutely a spiritual activity.
Yeah, absolutely. Did that percolate anything in you, Rebecca?
Oh yeah, I've so many different things. Like sometimes you as a coach get just a prompt, like to ask this really random question, and you're like, why? And then that question is the one that changes everything. And I know it doesn't come from me. So these are like the moments as the coach, but also as the client. I feel like many times when they can see them in the big picture, if they can see, oh wow, I'm in the process, or also like what is the season I'm in right now, and what is my relationship to God, or what is happening right now, what is God doing in my life, that is also a changer, because suddenly it's not just like, oh me, I have to do this, but wow, this is the holistic thing in there, and there's something bigger than me that is at work, and that is very encouraging.
Yeah. It probably is very fulfilling as a coach when you have those moments, I would imagine, just to see like the transformation happening right in front of your eyes, and they're leading their own way. I mean, you're helping them draw it out, but that's got to be a really significant thing. As you guys think, like this is a different direction than what we had talked about, but what are some times that maybe are really challenging as a coach when you're really wanting to help someone move forward? But what are some common ways that are really difficult, or you see people maybe being stuck, and you're struggling to help them? Like, what are some common challenges for coaches?
I think especially if you're also training MPD and you're an expert in the field, to not give your opinion, to not jump to conclusion too fast, or use your own experience and project that on the client, because it could have nothing to do with their issue. And I think to really I learned to actively park all that and to really have just positive regard, just sit there and explore and keep exploring. Because in the moment you have a solution, you stop exploring. And that's a danger if you're an expert in your field and coaching someone.
That's really significant. Thank you for sharing that, Rebecca. That's a really good insight.
Yeah. And I think also sometimes if someone's already involved in their ministry, sometimes they haven't got permission to set some ministry aside for a season, so they've got time to build their support team. Sometimes there can be a bit of conflict there, which is why another reason why the triangular agreement is really important. And also sometimes with coaching, it can feel like you're going around in circles, or you're asking questions and not really getting anywhere. But at those times, you can just ask the client, like, where do we need to go? What would you like to discuss in order to help you move forwards?
Yeah. I'm thinking even some of my own coaching right now, where we keep cycling back to the similar issue, like we keep exploring, but it doesn't seem like we're moving forward. And sometimes those are challenging moments when you have to figure out why do we keep ending up here? It's a significant thing. As you think about, some of the coaches or the people, the leaders in the audience, what other questions would you want me to ask you, or what would you really like to talk about right now for a few minutes?
I mean, another thing that I come across a lot is being international team. Like in missions, it's like many times it happens that even I as a coach have my culture. Like I'm in Germany living in the States, so I have different filters I perceive things through. The client has different nationality, different upbringing, different social clues. So these things are something to really be aware of, and to bring that into the team as a leader. But also we recognize that leadership can be really lonely, and that's also why we did the leadership coaching course, to actually sit down with leaders from organization, explore what they want to do, how they actually doing, and giving them room to explore that and take a minute to really be aware of what's going on. I think that is something that excites both of us, Claire and I feel leaders as such an impactful role. Like you can coach so much, but if the leader doesn't have the structures and everything in the vision, everything in place, it cannot really go as far as it could.
I think that's extraordinary. And I feel like the leaders I experience that do coaching, they're working on their blind spots. And I feel like there's a really like a trajectory of growth that helps everyone around them when they have a coach. So I just want to affirm what you said. I think it's really significant. So, and now that you've had some time to think, Claire, any thoughts on what question or what area you might want to talk about?
Yeah, and I think, just on the back of what Rebecca said, just how culture plays such an important part of it. I'm always excited to train coaches, from different places with different cultures, because as much as support raising can look different in other cultures, so can coaching, and what's needed, and what kind of questions are acceptable to ask. What things might not be, and so understanding that is really, really important, and also for us to know our clients well, and to know what we can and can't ask, and what's appropriate, what isn't.
Yeah. And so, as you say that, I just was thinking, we were doing a group coaching call with some folks in India that we trained last month. And if I asked the question, because of the power distance, they might often say an answer that will respect, but they don't, and they'll say face, right? And so we might perceive that in one way, but I need anyway, but somebody else asked the question that wasn't me, another person in the group, and then they were able to share because I didn't ask the question. And I just thought, there's so much to learn in that space, right? About how to engage and understanding and interpreting. It's meaningful, but it's also so challenging too. So Great. I really appreciate that. As you guys think, what are, if somebody's like, man, I really am intrigued by what Rebecca and Claire shared today. What are some options? What resources would you give them? Where would you tell them to get trained? Like, would you want them to contact you guys? I was just thinking, like, what if somebody wants to take the next step?
Yeah, so Rebecca and I have put together a 6-module coaches training course. It's sort of six 3-hour blocks that we do online. You can contact us about the next dates. We're hoping to run 2 more this year, and so I think it would be a good way to start. We really want to see the participants on that who have lived on support themselves or have recently done a support raising training, so they really know what it's like to raise support before they get into it. But I think we'd both be open to having conversations with anybody who wanted to develop a pool of coaches within their organization.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that. Anything else any books or thoughts or just podcasts or blogs that you guys read or, kind of frequent?
Yeah, I mean, I can so Personal Support Matters is a book that I co-authored with Miles Wilson. I don't get any royalties from it, so I can unashamedly recommend it to people. It is a useful, like, hands-on approach to building a support team. But at the end of each chapter, there are some coaching questions sort of to help someone through that process. And there is also a section on coaching. So if you're someone who's building your partner team, but you don't have a coach, there's a basic framework of questions you could give to a friend. Say, hey, ask me these questions every so often and really help me. So that's one resource I know of. Or also, if you're, especially within Europe, but not restricted to that, there is the Ministry Partners Network forum that you can get engaged with and find out about trainings and coachings. There's a coaches training happening in Dutch this year, for example. So it's like, just, I'd say just get connected. And then you can find out what sorts of things are happening.
Yeah, I think I want to second that. So it really depends what you want as an organization. If you want to look into a coaching program, it might be different than someone who raises support as a staff. So I would think there's different things. So we did the ICF accreditation program, but there's 18 months. So not many organizations want to spend 18 months in that. So that's why we also developed this 6 modules, or we can expand it to 9 to go a bit more in depth, but definitely looking into the different networks. You guys have coaching that you have. So I feel like explore with what you actually need, the networks that are there, and come together. And it's also why we're so passionate about this, just bringing people together, networking. So many different organizations have different views, bring something different to the table. And my personal preference is actually cross-organizational coaching, because that really helps you to see, we're doing the same thing, just in different ways, and to really network with each other.
Yeah, that's great. It's great, and I'm glad you brought up some of the other resources. And guys, the ICF, if you have the time and energy, it's worth doing. I know Kathy went to Keith Webb's coach model, and that's my wife. She's in charge of our coaching training at VIA. But there's a lot of good resources out there. I think Dancing Between Cultures is a great book on cross-cultural coaching. So there's some good resources out there. We'll make sure to link those in the bio, and we'll get their link. And then VIA also has a coaching training that is still open for registration the first week of May. So, and we're here together because, like, there are no competitors in this space. Like, there's plenty of people to be trained, and find the one that fits your needs and your values, and then go to that one, or go to both. I mean, do whatever helps you be the best at what you can do. It. We're all trying to do the same thing here. So, and as we kind of close out today, any last thoughts that you would want to say to the folks, or just kind of summarize what we talked about today?
I think for me, it's about developing a healthy environment in which you're either you as an individual or your staff can raise their support. So, training is really important, coaching is really important, leadership is really important. And it's just about creating the right atmosphere in which people can really thrive and grow and reach their potential in it. Because without any one of those things, it can be much harder to raise support and for staff in an ongoing way.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta build the whole thing so that people have, it's like having a good garden soil, right? It's fertile, it's moist, it's got good sunlight, it's all those things. Any last thoughts from you, Rebecca?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like sometimes we get so caught up in the details. Ultimately, we want to like change people's life. And I love MPD because like it is a lifestyle. Like fundraising many times is an action driven by need that stops when it's over. But MPD is this lifestyle. It's relational. It's messy. The things come up. Coaching helps to make it real and elevate it. But ultimately, it's like something that we do together as a community to change people's life. And that's why I'm so passionate about this.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies, for your time and your investment and your life's work in this. And I love that. It's such a special place when your whole job is to see the success of other people. Like it's such it really is a servant's role. Like it's not it's a behind the scenes, and your joy comes from watching them win at support raising and grow in the Lord. And I think there are very few things in the world that expose our humanity, our frailty, rather than like more than raising support. Like it brings out your identity questions, like your bad theology, like all those things come to light. And what a great place for people like you to enter in to the vulnerability and to gently help people move forward and to draw what's true and help them apply it in their heart and their mind. And so thank you for what you're doing for ministries and organizations and in the lives of people and for the kingdom. And thanks for being a person who celebrates the wins of other people. That's really noble. So I'm really grateful for your time and the work you do, and hope we can continue this conversation in other ways and continue to work together. So thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that. And I think I speak for both of us we both do this because we think it's difficult. Mm-hmm. We don't do it because we think it's an easy thing to do. And we both know from experience it's difficult. And so, to partner with people in equipping them is a joy and a privilege.
Amen. Well, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And we hope this content was really helpful for you. Again, we'll list all of the things we put in the description. Make sure you have access to those. Thanks so much.